I want to tell you about a pattern I saw repeatedly as a personal trainer. A client would hire me, show up every session, work hard, do everything I asked, and the belly barely moved. I gave them more cardio. I pushed the intensity. In some cases, clients who were training hard, sleeping poorly, working high-stress jobs, things actually got worse. I was giving them an exercise solution to what was, in many cases, a metabolic problem. That pattern has a clinical name, metabolic syndrome. And today we're going to talk about what it actually is, why cortisol is the engine driving it, what the supplement industry gets right and wrong, and what the evidence actually supports. Hi, I'm Marty, a NASM Certified Personal Trainer, here with another research-backed fitness video for people over 40. Metabolic syndrome is a cluster of 5 conditions. When 3 or more are present simultaneously, your risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and stroke increases dramatically. The 5 markers: abdominal obesity, waist above 40 inches for men, 35 for women, elevated triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, high blood pressure, elevated fasting blood glucose. A 2026 study in JAMA confirmed that metabolic syndrome prevalence has been rising consistently among U.S. adults and becomes significantly more common after 40. The most visible symptom, the belly, is the one most people try to exercise away. And it is also the one that responds least to exercise alone when the underlying hormonal drivers are not addressed. We went deep on cortisol and visceral fat in week 5 of this series. Here's the extension. The HPA axis, your central stress response system, when chronically activated, keeps cortisol elevated. Chronic cortisol directly stimulates visceral fat accumulation, promotes insulin resistance, raises blood pressure, and creates a self-reinforcing loop where more insulin resistance activates the HPA axis further. The belly is the visible symptom of this loop running unchecked. Your wearable is tracking this in real time. Sustained HRV suppression with no obvious training cause is a downstream signal of elevated cortisol load. If your HRV has been trending down for weeks while the belly holds, your device and your metabolic picture are telling the same story. Now, here is the part that surprised me most as a trainer. A 2025 systematic review and network meta-analysis of exercise modalities and cortisol reduction found that high-intensity interval training was the only category that did not produce statistically significant cortisol reductions. Every other modality tested, yoga, continuous aerobic exercise, resistance training, showed reductions. HIIT in chronically stressed people can raise cortisol further. For clients already carrying a high cortisol load, a punishing workout is not the solution. Zone 2 cardio, which we covered in week 2, is not just an aerobic training tool. It is the correct exercise intensity for someone whose HPA axis is already overloaded. The protocol that the research supports is the one we have been building together for 7 weeks. Zone 2 cardio, moderate intensity, 3 to 4 sessions a week, directly reduces cortisol and improves insulin sensitivity without spiking the stress system. Resistance training, 2 to 3 sessions a week, builds the muscle mass that is the primary driver of glucose disposal and metabolic rate. Yoga and breathwork, confirmed as the most effective exercise modality specifically for cortisol reduction. Sleep, 7 to 9 hours, resets the cortisol diurnal rhythm that metabolic syndrome disrupts. Stress management, treating your life load as a training variable, not a background condition. Metabolic syndrome is reversible, but it requires addressing the actual drivers, not just adding more exercise intensity to a system that is already hormonally stressed. Full article with all references in this week's Substack. Link in the description. Subscribe for every Monday. Tell me in the comments, did you know your stress load was connected to your metabolic health in this specific way? I read every one. See you next Monday.